In a small town in Montana, there lies a monster of legend that has never before been captured in a documentary expedition until now. This is The Hunt for the Flathead Lake Monster, a documentary following the journey of Joshua Hubbard, a lifelong resident of the Flathead Valley, as he seeks to capture proof of a legendary freshwater lake monster, known to locals as the Flathead Lake Monster. You can see locals' homage to the lake monster in small lakefront towns like Big Fork, where a local burger restaurant called Burger Town serves what they call the Flathead Lake Monster Burger, a double cheeseburger with 1,000 island sauce. And Flathead Lake, handcrafted gourmet soda featuring a freshwater, serpent-like monster. And let's go on, the hunt for the Flathead Lake Monster. Flathead Lake is a large natural lake in northwest Montana, United States. The lake is a remnant of the ancient, massive glacial dammed lake, Lake Missoula of the era of the last interglacial. 4. Flathead Lake is a natural lake along the main line of the Flathead River. Once known as Salish Lake, this body of water was named for the Salish Indians. Early European explorers, like David Thompson, called them the Flathead Indians because of a misinterpretation of early Native American Sign Language. A common misconception is that the name is derived from a practice of head flattening more common among tribes such as the Chinook. There is no evidence to show that the Salish ever had this custom. In 1855, the United States, U.S., made the Treaty of Hellgate, by which it set aside the Flathead Reservation solely for use of the Flathead, encompassing an area including much of Flathead Lake. It was dammed in 1930 by Kerr Dam at its outlet on Polson Bay, slightly raising the lake level. The dam generates electricity. 5. The hydroelectric has been owned and operated by the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes since 2015. It is one of the cleanest lakes in the populated world for its size and type. Flathead Lake has a maximum depth of 370.7 feet, 113.0 meters, and an average of 164.7 feet, 50.2 meters. This makes Flathead Lake deeper than the average depths of the Yellow Sea or the Persian Gulf. The lake is inhabited by the native bull trout and cutthroat trout, as well as the non-native lake trout, yellow perch, and lake whitefish. Local residents have reported sighting other aquatic fauna in the lake as well, such as sturgeon and the Flathead Lake Monster located on the shores of Flathead and Lake counties in northwest Montana. This lake is known for two things: crystal clear water that you can see the bottom of the lake 100 feet below you, and the Flathead Lake Monster. The story of a monster in Flathead Lake originates in a Kootenai traditional legend. According to the story, long ago, the first native tribe in the area lived on an island in the middle of the lake. One winter, while crossing the frozen lake to move camp, two girls saw antlers approximately 2 feet in length protruding through the frozen ice. Thinking the antlers belonged to some animal, the girls decided to chop them off and take them. They used sharp-edged rocks to cut through the ice when the antlers suddenly started shaking. The ice around them split open, and the head of a monster appeared through the ice, shaking its giant antlers. The girls used their special powers to transform into a ball and a buckskin target to escape the monster, but half of the tribe drowned in the lake, which is said to be the reason why there are so few Kootenai people. The narrative holds that the Kootenai never strayed far from the lakeshore after that, and white settlers later reported occasionally seeing the monster. Sullivan's Hill near Elmo was originally known as the monster's backbone. According to the tribal story, the monster lived in what they called Monster Lake and was sometimes treated to huckleberries by a bird. The bird's husband became jealous and killed the lake monster, which now lies forever in the form of Sullivan's Hill. Some say you can even see red patches along the hillside, remnants of the monster's blood. According to retired newspaper editor Paul Fugelberg, local tales of the Flathead Lake Monster go back more than 100 years. It was supposedly first reported in 1889 by Captain James C. Kerr of the Lake Steamboat, the U.S. Grant, who claimed he and his 100 passengers saw an unusually large whale-like object in the water. According to the story, one of the passengers on the steamer shot at the creature and sent it diving for safety. Fugelberg notes that local residents have named the purported lake monster Flathead, inspired by Loch Ness, Nessie. Contemporary reports of sightings of Flathead by local residents and visitors average between 1 and 2 each year. However, In 1993 alone, there were about 13 reports. The monster is usually described as a large eel-shaped creature, round with a wavy body like a snake, 20 to 40 feet long, having brownish to blue-black skin and grayish-black eyes. It has often been described as looking like a whale or a giant sturgeon. According to Fugelberg, when I was editor of the Flathead Courier at Polson, author Dorothy M. Johnson, then secretary of the Montana Press Association, advised me not to treat sighting reports lightly in newspaper and magazine articles. She said, "I don't think the monster should be done with tongue-in-cheek. You have eyewitness accounts by people who were scared and didn't think it was funny." One local story that received much publicity described how a 3-year-old boy apparently fell into the lake and, when asked how he had extracted himself, told his mother, "The Flathead monster lifted me up." Fugelberg wrote that claimed sightings of the monster have been blamed on hyperactive imaginations, playful pranks, natural phenomena such as wave action, shadows, lighting effects, logs, and a number of animals, including bears, horses, deer, elk, dogs, a dead monkey, a loose circus seal, and even an escaped buffalo. In the 1950s, a significant cash reward was offered by Big Fish Unlimited to anyone who could catch what was termed the superfish of Flathead Lake. A man named C. Leslie Griffith was reported to have caught a 7-foot, 6-inch, 181-pound, 1-ounce white sturgeon, now displayed at the Polson Flathead Historical Museum. Locals of the area believe the Flathead Lake monster to be a plesiosaur left over from glacial Lake Missoula. The Plesiosauria or plesiosaurs are an order or clade of extinct Mesozoic marine reptiles, belonging to the Sauropterygia. Plesiosaurs first appeared in the latest Triassic period, possibly in the Rhaetian stage. About 203 million years ago, the largest plesiosaur ever to swim in the oceans was Lioplorodon, with a length of up to 25 meters, 82 feet. Lioplorodon was a carnivore, with a short neck, a head 3 meters, 10 feet, long, and 4 powerful flippers. Glacial Lake Missoula was a prehistoric proglacial lake in western Montana that existed periodically at the end of the last ice age between 15,000 and 13,000 years ago. The lake measured about 7,770 square kilometers, 3,000 square miles, and contained about 2,100 cubic kilometers, 500 cubic miles, of water, half the volume of Lake Michigan. 1. The Glacial Lake Missoula National Natural Landmark is located about 110 kilometers, 68 miles, northwest of Missoula, Montana, at the north end of the Camas Prairie Valley, just east of Montana Highway 382 and McFarland Ranch. It was designated as a National Natural Landmark in 1966 because it contains the Great Ripples, often measuring 25 to 50 feet, 7.6 to 15.2 meters, high and 300 feet, 91 meters, long, that served as a strong supporting element for J. Harlan Bretz's contention that Washington state's channeled scablands were formed by repeated cataclysmic floods over only about 2,000 years, rather than through the millions of years of erosion that had been previously assumed. The lake was the result of an ice dam on the Clark Fork caused by the southern encroachment of a finger of the Cordilleran ice sheet into the Idaho Panhandle, at the present-day location of Clark Fork, Idaho, at the east end of Lake Pandorile. The height of the ice dam typically approached 610 meters, 2,000 feet, flooding the valleys of western Montana approximately 320 kilometers, 200 miles, eastward. It was the largest ice-dammed lake known to have occurred. 4. The periodic rupturing of the ice dam resulted in the Missoula floods, cataclysmic floods that swept across eastern Washington and down the Columbia River Gorge approximately 40 times during a 2,000-year period. And the Flathead Lake is the largest freshwater lake left over at the basin of what would have been Glacial Lake Missoula. What could lie in this 197-square-mile freshwater lake left over from Glacial Lake Missoula when the lake had a maximum depth of 2,100 feet? The Clark Fork's drainage is a network of valleys among high mountain ranges. Lake Missoula formed through this region of western Montana. It is named for the city of Missoula in the upper reaches of the Clark Fork watershed. The mountains surrounding the city show the strand lines from the lake nearly 20,000 years ago. 8. At its largest extent, Lake Missoula's depth exceeded 2,000 feet, 610 meters, and may have held 600 cubic miles, 2,500 kilometers 3, of water, as much as Lake Erie and Lake Ontario combined. The surface area covered 3,000 square miles, 7,770 kilometers 2, and the shoreline attained an elevation of 4,200 feet, 1,300 meters. The lake spread through the Clark Fork River Basin, reaching east of Missoula, 259 miles, 417 kilometers, to Gold Creek, northeast up the Blackfoot River, 270 miles, 430 kilometers, to Lake Alva, 253 miles, 407 kilometers, and east of Ovando, 270 miles, 430 kilometers. Two large lobes formed to the south and north. To the south, the Bitterroot Valley filled as far as Sula, Montana, 286 miles, 460 kilometers. To the north, the Flathead River Basin became an expansive body of water, creating an island of Red Sleep Mountain in the CSKT Bison Range and extending north 286 miles, 460 kilometers, to Polson at the basin of the Flathead Ice Lobe and 286 miles, 460 kilometers, up the Little Bitterroot River to Niarata some 132 miles, 212 kilometers, above the Flathead River's mouth at the Clark's Fork,